Hi everyone, it's Kyuhua. Welcome back to my channel. First off, I want to thank y'all for 300 subscribers. I've literally only been making videos for around 3 months and I'm not the most active K-tuber, so I appreciate y'all for still sticking with me. Some of y'all might not after this video, but that's something I've accepted. So, as you can see by the title, I'm going to be sharing some of my unpopular opinions. And since I'm sharing my opinions, I have no choice but to give a disclaimer. You are 100% free to disagree with me, that's completely fine, as long as you stay respectful. I don't mind having a civil debate about any of the topics that I mentioned in this video, but one thing we're not going to do is be rude, point blank period. Scratch that, be rude if you want to, because I like to tussle anyways, so it really don't matter to me. But if you don't actually like to tussle, it'd be in your best interest to keep it cute. Without further ado, let's get started. The first opinion is, it's mainly the fans' fault that K-pop idols can't be 100% themselves. I always see K-pop stans complain about how idols aren't allowed to be themselves, but then in the same breath they hate on every single idol that actually shows any blink of personality. Let me rephrase that. They're allowed to show personality, but not anything that K-pop stans perceive to be cringy or rude. Obviously K-pop companies are also at fault when it comes to this, because they don't really allow their idols to speak out concerning certain issues, and sometimes an idol is given a certain archetype to play by their company. So obviously it's their fault as well, but honestly I feel like it's more so K-pop stans' fault than anything. I'll expand on that. One thing about these K-pop companies is that they're 100% watching our every move. They realize that there are certain things that K-pop stans like, and certain things that K-pop stans dislike, and they will have their idols act accordingly. For example, shipping culture in K-pop. These companies see that these fans like it when there's two idols in a K-pop group that are particularly close with each other, and perform skinship on a regular basis. So since they know this, they're going to encourage these two idols to play up to that. Obviously that doesn't mean that these two idols don't genuinely like each other, and they don't genuinely enjoy performing skinship. Two things can be true at once. It can be true that these two idols genuinely care for each other a lot, and it could also be true that their company is encouraging them to perform a lot of skinship on camera for the sake of fan service. Now back to my original point. And for that I'm going to use another example, Wooyoung from ateez. Back in September of last year, the Vada scandal happened. If you don't know what happened, Vada is a dancer from SMF that was accused of copying a move from ateez's Say My Name choreography, in his New Things choreography. The scandal really blew up when Wooyoung did a biting symbol during a performance, indicating that the move had been stolen. Wooyoung got a lot of support from ateez and some other fandoms, but he received a lot of backlash for apparently being unprofessional. Wooyoung is not the only idol that this has happened to by any means. My point is, it's clear that some sort of precedent has been set, that idols aren't allowed to stand up for themselves when they feel like they've been wronged in any way. They're expected to look the other way and just accept it. And unless K-pop stans start to allow idols to just have human emotions, this is something that just isn't going to change. Being neutral isn't siding with the potential perpetrator. When a scandal happens, specifically in the K-pop community, one thing that you're bound to see each time is people immediately believing the victim, and taking the victim's side. Don't get me wrong, this isn't a bad thing at all. I think it's a lot better to support a potential liar than it is to support a potential perpetrator. But, being neutral would mean that you're supporting neither, and I think that's perfectly okay. At the end of the day we weren't there when the situation occurred, and we don't know what happened, so as long as you're not actively supporting the perpetrator, I personally don't see the issue. In fact, I'd say that this is the perfect way to deal with this. If it comes out that the perpetrator is guilty, you can be rest assured, because you weren't supporting or defending this person. On the other end of the spectrum, if the perpetrator is found to be innocent, you can also be rest assured, because you didn't participate in the hate train against them or didn't have a place in possibly ruining someone's life. I don't know, this just makes the most sense to me. I'm concerned by how much ateez has been working recently. And before y'all start to tussle with me in the comments, hear me out first. I love the fact that ateez is getting so many opportunities, and they're selling out huge venues and breaking records, but at this point, I feel like they're being overworked. Like every other week they're traveling to some place, doing some sort of tour. They've been touring non-stop since like 2021, and I honestly just want them to take a really big break. I'm genuinely starting to get worried about them. And yes, I know that as idols it's their job to promote and to do things like that, but they're also human beings, and as a fan I'm genuinely worried. Maybe it's because I'm still somewhat of a newer K-pop stan. I've only been a fan of K-pop for around 2 years, so maybe I just haven't gotten used to how hectic schedules can be, but I don't know, that's just how I feel. Like I love the fact that they give us a lot of content, don't get me wrong, but I just don't want it to be at their expense if that makes sense. Honestly, I hope after their Japanese comeback, they'll take like a 6-month break before their next Korean comeback. No one has to accept a certain idol or a certain group's apology. It doesn't matter if the situation happened 2, 5, or even 10 years ago, people don't have to accept it, especially if they're a part of the community that was offended in the first place. And even if you're a part of the community that they offended, and you personally chose to forgive them for whatever they said or did, that does not give you the right to tell others that they now must forgive this person just because you did. That's not how that works. An apology doesn't erase what they did. And let me add on to this. There is absolutely nothing wrong with picking and choosing when it comes to accepting apologies. 2 idols from 2 different groups could have done the exact same thing to offend a community. You can choose to forgive one and not the other, and that's still completely valid. If you felt like one had a genuine apology and the other didn't, then you're not obligated to forgive that other person. Or if neither idols issued an apology, but you feel like you've seen growth in one idol as opposed to the other, I feel like that's a valid reason as well. Ultimately, it's no one's place but the community offended by what was done to accept an apology. At the end of the day, forgiveness isn't owed. This should go without saying, of course, but for whatever reason there's still a lot of K-pop stans that believe they have the right to accept an apology on behalf of other communities, and have the right to tell other people to accept apologies. The hate train towards K-tubers and K-pop fans on YouTube is kind of justified. And yes, this is coming from a fellow K-tuber. I want y'all to do something for me. Get a piece of paper and a pencil and write down every single K-tuber you know. Then separate them from popular and unpopular. How many of these popular K-tubers' content solely consists of them hating on groups they don't like and nugu groups? Exactly. Obviously, I'm not saying that all of these popular K-tubers are the same. There's a few of them that genuinely make good content and don't talk shit about certain idols and groups for views. But unfortunately these problematic K-tubers are the loudest, and get the most attention. So obviously the K-pop stans that aren't on K-pop YouTube much, for the most part, are going to be seeing this, and are just going to assume that most K-tubers are problematic. Because at that point, why else are these K-tubers the most popular? Don't get me wrong, I'm not saying that it's right for K-pop stans that aren't on K-tube like that, to just be assuming that all of us K-tubers are problematic. All I'm saying is, I kind of see why they think that, and it is somewhat of a justified assumption. And those were some of my unpopular opinions. I plan on making a me versus my subscribers video. It's going to be a K-pop favorites edition. If you want to be a part of that video, I'll have the Google form in the comments. Anyways, I'll see y'all in the next video. Bye.